Black Cat Lounge is sponsored by Beacon, a home for those who have a passion for filmmaking and the unusual. The Haunted Hinsdale House. Those who walk there do not walk alone. Paraware, apparel for the action-seeking paranormal investigator. Dragonfly art and soul for all of your magical, metaphysical, and spiritual needs. Mystery Control, your go-to feed for science, magic, true crime, the paranormal, and so much more. Niagara, one of the top rated destinations in Western New York. The Black Cat Lounge is part of the Paraflix Entertainment Network. Everybody, Tim Shaw here. How are you guys doing tonight? I hope it's not too cold for you. I hope you didn't get that much snow, my friends up in Marquette, Michigan. I shake my head. I can't believe it. And my good friend John Kennedy heading up towards Sault Ste. Marie, the other side of the Mackinac Bridge. He measured 12 feet of snow on each side of his driveway. 12 feet. I'll stay right here where it's almost warm with my paltry dusting. That's about the best way I can describe it. Hey, we did this past weekend. We were all up at the Western Block in Lockport, New York, and we're working on a new studio there. And we're going to try to go and do our cooking show from there. Called the Chopping Block. And it's a great place. I got the hiccups. And I need to tell you, there's one of our guys, one of our PAs, has been designing different equipment and been putting things together, and he's really been doing a great job. Rick Perry from Western New York Soul Seekers. That's his little group by himself, one and only. He makes these proximity boxes. It's pretty cool looking. You know, I give him credit for it because of the fact that this is something that we don't get a chance to go and we don't get a chance to play around with. And I love these. And take a look at this. First of all, he's a woodworker. I know he buys the boxes, but I mean, he's a woodworker and he does a really great job, finishing them. Rechargeable. Turn it on. Just a nice little box. The only thing that he does is that he makes the spirit boxes. Now, if you've ever seen like Austin Maynard's boxes and other people's boxes, he's not doing just plain plug and play. He really goes, and both of them go the extra mile, authentic knobs, and really they work on it. They put the boxes actually into old radio cases, and they're absolutely gorgeous. So when the next one is done, he's a one-man wrecking crew. So when the next one is done, I'll have it and we'll bring it on the show and we'll show it off. So Rick Perry, Western New York Soul Seekers. If you want more information, drop it on Facebook and say hi to him. So anyway, today we got a great guest. Oh my God. I'm so excited because the timing couldn't have been better. Most of you guys know about some of the Bigfoot sightings in Ohio that have recently come up. Plus, there's a meteor hit, which is like insane. I think it's just wonderful. So he's going to say, no, he's not an expert. He's an expert. Don't let him kid you. He's a great guy. Be honest with you. He's one of the guys that I really look up to when it comes to cryptozoology, because I want to talk a little bit about that too, about the separation between like the different modalities and the different things that we all do. But anyway, our guest today He is the founder of X8 Tactical Limited Custom Knives. His knife work is unbelievable. I'm going to be honest with you. I've got to buy one from him because of the fact that I really love custom work, and I like the fact that some of these knives are really, I'm not going to say one of a kind, but they stand up to some of the worst abuse that you can take. And and as an old trekker, I love knives. I really do. He's co-host of Where's My Siege? Oh my God. Where's My Sage with the venerable Christy London, who we all love and adore. And you know what? He's also one of the founders of Tactical Bigfoot Research. He's and I mean, I think that's great. He also has a taste of the universe. Mike brings a unique mix of practical experience, scientific curiosity, critical thinking. This is something that really I love about him, because many of us can kind of go off into left field a little bit. And Mike is one of those guys that he's a believer, but he also is very, very logical, and he will turn around and kind of work to figure things out. And I think that's great. He's got a background in criminal justice. He's data driven, which I love. And he likes to blend traditional tracking with outside the box thinking, which is so important when it comes to this stuff. So anyway, Mike will be featured, I think, this year, if I'm not mistaken, at several crypto events. And he's having a workshop at the 2025 PA Bigfoot Camping Adventures. So let's welcome the one and only Mike Ann to the Black Cat Lounge. There we are. Whoop, come on. There we are, Mike. I had a little problem bringing you in there. You know what? The powers that be are just like, I think that meteor is what screwed everything up. And now we don't have any. And Mike, I don't have any sound from you now. your sound is off. I'm telling you, it's totally. I swear to God, it's got to be that meteor that came down, Mike. What do you think?
You got me now, Tim?
I gotcha. We got you now, buddy.
You got me. All right. I don't know why my wonderful, 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 wonderful snowball is not working today, but we'll figure out why that's not. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to go through my headset.
That's all right.
So, how is that
listen, you sound great. You sound wonderful. And Christy,
there's not an echo because we're going through my ears. So if we're going through there,
we're
okay.
Good. And like believe me, Mike, I appreciate it, because let me tell you, both my laptops have been acting up. I don't know what it is. I'm going to blame it all on Christy London, because Christy London came in the room. The minute she came in the room, everything went wonky. So we'll just blame it on poor Christy. How's that?
Yeah, she was texting, right? She's like, she couldn't find us. And I'm like, well, you find her stuff faster than the rest of us. So,
hey, let me ask you this. It's a hot topic. Everybody's been kind of asking me about it, and I don't know enough to comment on it. What's going on in Ohio? I mean, there were several Bigfoot reports there. People. Yeah, tell us about that.
I've been kind of running around with work, so trying to catch up with this. But over the last couple of weeks, there's been there's been a flap of sightings, if that's what you want to say, in Northeast Ohio. The original reports came into the Bigfoot Mapping Project, and a friend of ours, Scott, over there at Bigfoot Mapping Project, which eventually was picked up by Jeremiah Byron from the Bigfoot Society podcast. And Jeremiah kind of ran with that, did a little blurb, and it hit the national and international presses, and he has gotten blown up. I talked to him for probably about an hour yesterday about who and what and where they've been going, and he's been working it, and he's got some folks on the ground that have been doing this for a long time, a lot longer than I have. So it's been a real interesting role. The investigator he's got working with on the ground, it definitely has been with some of those folks that are, hey, there's my wonderful co-host and partner in crime when it comes to the paranormal and the cryptid stuff. So they've been looking at things. Jeremiah's been taking a heck of a lot of phone calls, a lot of email. But along with the good, there's a lot of junk that he keeps getting. He's telling me he's getting a lot of folks sending him, AI hoax stuff and everything. So
I just got one, Mike. I just got one. I think it was this weekend or during the week, and it's like a picture after dark from a second-story window, looking down in the dark. I mean, it's like I mean, I can't see anything. I feel bad that I don't see it, but it's at this point, I think that people really need to go and really kind of sharpen what they're doing and sharpening up. If they're going to go and take photographs or whatever, they really need to start working on something a little bit better than a cell phone, unfortunately.
Well, the thing is, there's a lot of folks right now that are using AI for a lot of this information, and a lot of the old photos that have been, they seem to circulate. If you talk to Culls, who's been doing this a lot longer, and Steve Culls is friends of both of ours.
Yes.
And he's the squatch detective, and I work with Steve on different projects, and he's kind of one of those guys that helped get me dragged in. He's helped introduce us. It's about every 7 years the photos make the cycle, and they're making the cycle again. But with the Ohio stuff, I mean, I'm not boots on the ground in that area. I do know quite a few folks that are in that area. Amy Boo, who kind of leads Project Zoo Book, and some of the other members, and I kind of affiliated with those guys and gals as well. A real big group of researchers. There's a few people that are out in public, and the rest of us, well, not me per se, I'm kind of out there here doing this, but that there's part of the team that it doesn't get in front of the camera. The brains behind the operation, the scientists, the academics that are there working for major universities and other agencies. But I know there's a bunch of them that live in that area, and they've hit the ground hard to see what's going on.
No, that area, I just did a geo search. So, the area is I'm not going to say like secluded, but it is a wooded area. And from what they were describing, it's either black in color, brown in color, 7 feet tall, basically a classic sighting. And what I got to ask you is this, and this is what, and I have my official Bigfoot gym T-shirt on today in your honor. But
thank you.
At the gym today, this conversation came up as I'm trying to work out, Mike. It's like I don't want a coffee clutch, but hey, you're the Bigfoot. You're one of those Bigfoot people, and it's like in there 1,001 questions. Is it like, do you think at this time of year it's like a migratory thing, or do you think it had something to do with that meteor that may have hit that area? Not that area, but Ohio.
So, talking to a lot of other researchers this week with this flap, yes, that is and I know we've got the screen pulled up, in the background for Bigfoot Mapping Project, Scott's mapping project. And Jeremiah on Bigfoot Society also has a list of, all these people he's talked to. He's got a nice interactive map, and these are both interactive maps that are available, and apps that and there's the BFRO that keeps track of things, Map Moneymakers Group. I just happen to be really good friends with Jeremiah and with Scott, and I've interviewed both and sat many hours with them. But that area, if you follow that area of Northeast Ohio, it goes into the Alleghenies, it pops right up into, Western New York and that. And, there is, some thoughts of, possible, some folks have thoughts of possible migration. Where I sit on this, I've had some friends that have had some sightings.
Right.
I and a very good friend, Joseph Schneider, who passed a couple years ago. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, I met him many years ago.
yeah,
Oh my gosh,
and
I didn't realize he passed.
yeah, and
Oh,
that's
I'm sorry to hear
a
that.
weird situation there with me, to the point that Joseph and I did a speaking event for our friend Teddy Vanson, here in, a
Western
couple,
New York, right? Yeah.
yeah, and Joe and I got done with that talk together. I got a phone call from my mom later that night, and she was diagnosed with cancer. 2 weeks later, Joseph was diagnosed with cancer. Um, the last time I talked to my mom on the phone was at Joseph's house while he was, uh, dealing with his hospice. And still, those 2 weeks before, he continued to tell me the story of what he saw. I was the first, as well as a friend that's a scientist, were taken to the location where he had his sighting in Western New York. And, very strange. Like I said, last time I saw him, last time I talked to my mom was with him. My mom passed within 2 weeks with Joseph. And in that time frame, when I got the call, I was supposed to speak in Whitehall that weekend, Whitehall, New York, where during the 1970s, again, they had a large flap like this
Yeah.
Ohio flap. And GPS took me from Rochester down past his house. Absolutely should have taken me on one of the other interstates, but took me through all these back logs through Naples and Cohocton and drove me by. And there were a bunch of investigators visiting paying their respects to Joseph, before he passed. So it was weird. I now have Joseph's Jeep in my driveway that I'm in the process of restoring,
Wow.
so we can turn it back into that research vehicle that he had. So, but there's a guy I know, and I sat with him right to the end, and helped scatter his ashes and talk to his family, and said the man would never, and those are the guys I've talked to, a couple other professionals that, stated their careers, some military folks that,
Mm-hmm.
corresponded, and other friends that I've met over the years, and they've been counseled by folks with different psychiatry and psychology degrees, and like they saw something. So as long as they have seen something, I will continue the path to try to collect as much data as out there. So when folks like Scott have put a beautiful mapping program together with GIS software, works better than Google Maps to find things. And you have folks like Darby Orcutt down at North Carolina State University at Raleigh doing an unknown DNA hair study. And I'm on the phone with Darby probably every 3 weeks to see what's going on with their project. Somebody's looking for something. High Check's done years of stuff. So I guess spinning around these things, is there something that might be there? We have to look at all the aspects. When we look at the environment here in Western New York or Ohio, what's in that area, plant-based, animal-based. We talk to our friends on the Pacific Northwest up there in the Olympic Project, Shane Corson and some of those folks up there, Derek, when they had their nests and stuff, like nest sightings, which have been documented, on a couple of different programs. Not when you got a medium that you're running around with, but those guys have been documented by Seth Breedlove and the Small Town Monsters crew,
Right.
And Jeff Meldrum was out there before Jeff passed, and and a couple of other primate specialists that have looked at these things. And there's some scientists that are hardcore looking at these things. So, and if anything, this is a great way to get friends, family out in the woods and learn a whole bunch about nature and science and everything. So
this is what I always loved about. I did a lot of I did a lot of backwoods trekking for years. Up until I decided that sleeping on the ground was not for this kid anymore. And I have to tell you that I had a chance to meet with some really great people, and I was able to go and hear so many of their stories which was amazing. And I was down in where was I? I think I was in West Virginia, uh, by some. I think it was some of the wind turbines, and I was able to go and interview some constables that actually had sightings and stuff. So I was able to go and be, at that time, boots on the ground. And it was great to be able to get out in the woods. And people don't realize that. People need to get out in the woods. You got to have that reconnection. The late Tom Brown Jr., I took classes with him, and he was like big into it. So, the further you're away from nature, the more disconnected you become, which is great. Now, here's something. You spoke about the late Jeff Meldrum. He gave me this. This is one of the casts that. Well, the reason why he gave it to me is because it broke in shipping. Is what happened. And we were up at an event together, and my booth was right next to his. But I cherish this. I cherish this. I wish I had got him to sign the back of it. But this is something that he gave to me. It's one of my. I think I got 7 or 8 casts in my collection. Now let me ask you a little bit about something that I've often wondered about is communication. Now, last time we talked about infrasound, and I'm still a big proponent of infrasound. Do you think that they are Bigfoot? These cryptids are using either a primate style of communication, wood knocks and whistles and that sort of thing, and the howls? Or do you think that it might even be a little bit more sophisticated, such as infrasound? Like we know that elephants use it and tigers and that sort of thing.
Again, you as well as myself, I'm huge into documentation.
Yeah.
Documentation is the key. And, where you go in the world, what you're looking at, the sounds, the things that are there. Looking at the actual sounds you're hearing, getting to know what's out there. I have some great footage of what I thought were rocks being thrown at me and some wood knocks. And what it was, and we were at a location that I got bluff charged the night before by something. But I didn't have the thermal cam. I had 2 ladies that I was with. One was, their daughter was doing a presentation on Bigfoot. So I'd given them all the expensive gear, and I'm just kind of sitting there playing on my phone because I'm like, nothing's going to happen. Like the fishing thing, pick up the phone and, the big bass comes in.
Isn't that always the way, Mike?
Yeah. So, was it a bear? Was it a Bigfoot? Was it a deer? What it was, but it bluff charged us. I tripped, fell because I was standing where I shouldn't have been standing on a rock. But anyway, I went back through the next day with my buddy, the scientist. And as we're going through, we hear what we think are rocks coming through the woods. And I'm like, that's it. I'm running to see what this is. I'm done with this whole thing. Mm-hmm. The pine trees that we were standing under were tall enough, we're like 60, 80 foot tall, and the pine cones coming out of the trees, about a half pound a piece. Well, as they're coming through, they're hitting everything, and they're giving that wood knock. They're giving that thump when they're hitting the ground because of the substrate. So you got to take a look. But I always tell folks to use things like the Merlin or bird.net apps. If I switch over, Tim, if you don't mind, I'll switch my camera and it'll take me over to my phone, and I can kind of show everybody here. So I'm going to switch. Usually I'm faster at this, but I guess not today,
Hey, you had a long day, Mike. Okay, that you listen. You got a special dispensation for it.
Yeah, I have to turn the camera back on. There we go. So, particular app, I don't know if it's going to show up on there really well, is the Merlin ID app from Cornell. And when it's recording, you're going to see up at the top of the screen that you can actually visually look at those things. So. Christy's used to things of me hitting the wrong button, but what that does, it allows us to really look at that type of sound, and are we seeing things in that frequency? And the other thing that I use is the physics toolbox. And this physics toolbox actually has sound meters and oscilloscopes and spectrum analyzers built right into it. So the ability to go in and take a look. So this is just my voice right now, but we can look for those things. So as we're sitting in the field, these are free apps. We can look at that frequency that's out there. So even you folks that are out there doing EVPs and everything else, you know,
That's
there you
awesome.
go. You can take a look at that sound meter and look and see where those decibel levels are going, what the infrasound is. So again, that's a physics one that's out there. There's another one that's a spectro app as well. And again, you can set those. The problem being with a lot of these devices, these apps, I'll switch back cameras. I got the touchscreen computer, so it's actually a little quicker for me today. Is that 90% of your recorders that are out there right now don't pick up infrasound.
No, they don't.
Unless you're specifically going out and buying one that picks up infrasound. And there is a company, I think they're out of North Carolina or South Carolina. I think it's North Carolina. Joe and Jesse from the Doyles from Hellbent Holler. I know they went out and purchased one of these recorders. And they are designed, as you said, for elephants. Biologists use them to listen, but they're also used by folks checking, as we circle back to the meteors and stuff like that today, used by, folks looking at the stars, looking for meteorites and falling stars, because as that stuff hits through the atmosphere, it actually gives that infrasonic sound out.
Right. See, that's what I was getting at, because of the fact that I know these sightings happened previously, but I was just wondering if perhaps somehow, some way, the sound may have been something before and started some kind of migration.
It is possible. I mean, you look at animals before earthquakes and other natural disasters,
exactly.
They start to move. But, do we have one that we can study? Do we have enough people taking enough data points down? And I mean, that's the big thing. And then we have to take, like I said, I talked to, as soon as I saw this stuff was going on with Jeremiah and all the socials, I got right on and called them, because I am a friend. But there is a lot of stuff on social media right now. There's a lot of hoax stuff, like I said, with the AI that is out there. I mean, I took, I have a thing for folks that say they want to help a witness. And there's a couple of folks out there that say they're artists. And again, this is my opinion, but they say, hey, I'm going to go and help you draw what you saw. But they're fine art folks. They're, specialize in doing portraits and stuff. And when a witness says it has large red eyes, and then I see the drawing that this supposed, sketch artist does, and the eyes are perfect if you were trying to paint the Mona Lisa or some kind of thing to put up in the Louvre, it's not the police lineup photo that I'm looking for. So like the other day, I went through and I said, all right, well, if you hear something that says, hey, it's got big red eyes, or it's got this, or the feature of the infrasound, and well, it's always got to be, and a lot of our folks are going for it's a big ape. Well, big apes have, the great apes have certain characteristics.
Exactly.
Other primates, the lesser primates, have those traits. So I went through and I literally said, okay, what primates have large red eyes? Well, it's tassers, eyes, bush babies. And then I'm like, all right, well, take this, it's Sloloris. Hey, take those eyes, those are reflective, put those in there. What has that laryngeal sac that would give that heavy thing? That's more gibbony. And even if you listen to a lot of the recordings, I had the pleasure of volunteering at a zoo as a kid and spending a lot of time around orangs, chimps, gibbons, spider monkeys, lions, tigers, because the particular zoo I volunteered at, they were all in that little, house at the time. Thank God they've made those enclosures bigger, even though you'd rather see everything back out in nature. But for me, it allowed me to listen. The California sea lions, I mean, that was all in that row of a couple hundred feet. So hearing them, feeding time every day, but hearing a gibbon sound, and Chrissy's with us when we were down near Fredonia and picked up some stuff. But again, is it going back to is it in that infrasound range? And again, we can put that towards your paranormal stuff. Is it infrasonic? Is it the sump pump in the house that people think they're feeling or seeing or hearing? If you're not listening to that stuff, and again, it's all stuff that, I walked in the house and I feel like I'm being attacked. Well, are you being attacked, or is it the house actually attacking you because your plumbing sucks,
or your electrical sucks? It's the same. Yeah, it's the exact same thing. But you know what? You know what really drives me insane, and I know it'll drive you insane on the same level. You walk in and everything is a crypto, or everything is a ghost, and you're hearing the furnace whistle. And that's what they're hearing, or, right away. And I think a lot of that has to do with some of the stuff that we see on TV. And I think that's the unconscious result of some of the, well, I'm not going to say good shows, because they've had some really good shows on, but some of the rather interesting, I'm not going to say bad shows, because I am a mountain monster guy. I'm not going to lie. That's one of my, that's one, I'm going to come right out and say that's a guilty pleasure of mine, Mike. But I also take it with a grain of salt, just like they do, because I know the guys.
Those guys are absolutely. I love hanging out with those guys. Yeah. I've done a bunch of events with them, and be where we see them. Even if I'm not speaking, and I run into those guys, Wild Bill or Buck or something like that. It's always a big hug. How you doing? Those guys are there for their fans. They, they're interested in the topic, but they're making TV, and be it our friends that are doing, Finding Bigfoot or Expedition Bigfoot or whatever, if anything, you're getting some kid involved in getting out in the woods and stuff like that.
That's exactly it.
I spent some time with a young gentleman over this last couple of years, Daniel Burnett, who's in England, and the gentleman, he's going to be 16 if he hasn't quite turned there yet, and I would feel horrible if I missed his birthday, but he has autism, and at 14 started a podcast. At 14 and a half, almost 15, went and tried to learn about eDNA and reached out to major science labs on how to do that thing. Wow. Got involved and helped produce a movie, and then folks from both of those TV shows actually got together, split their differences. Whoever their marketing people were, let those folks get together and help this kid make a movie about his life and his journey with autism. It's the thing is what you can go and what you can learn. I mean, the science behind this stuff. Are you learning how to cook out in the woods? Are you learning how to camp? Like you said, interviewing people. Here's a kid that I watched interview Jeff Meldrum, and watch Jeff, as a PhD, listen to this young kid and keep up with him. And I'm going, sure, buddy. Yep. No, I'm, maybe that's why I never finished my master's and got onto my PhD. But, it's, chasing rocks really wasn't my thing,
But when you think about it, I mean, what you want is the inspiration, and that's what a lot of people don't get, because a lot of people now, paranormal is cutthroat. Well, everything's cutthroat, but it's like people don't realize that you're grasping, you're giving, you're inspiring. And if it wasn't for so many of the really bad Kolchak the Night Stalker TV shows that I watched, I would never have gotten involved in this. I mean, so everything doesn't have to be 100% on the money if you're working for inspiration. But as you progress in this, then you start getting down to the nitty gritty. I got a question for you. I got a question, because I want to, and I've always been kind of, I guess, interested in a crossover. And the biggest crossover is, of course, ufology and crypto. Crypto. I'm thinking of crypto money, never mind the cryptid.
Well, That's a whole nother thing with me. Follow the money, folks.
Follow the money.
Really want to know where the answers are or where the BS is coming from.
Exactly. You got that right. You got that right. But I mean, we know back in the 60s, and this is the classic case, 1960s, Presque Isle, you had the UFO landing and you had what they consider a Bigfoot sighting. And what the heck was his name? Stan Gordon went and he compiled an impressive list of combo sightings where you had something that you had either a craft or something that was in the air, and you had what they considered a cryptid sighting. What do you think about that? Are we talking that something that may or may not? I mean, we're all within, everything is within the realm of possibilities. But do you feel that this is something that should be further pursued, or do you think that maybe perhaps there's a lot of sightings? However, we should take the actual, let's say, the animal or the creature, and we should really kind of put a laser point focus on that.
Well,
it's a hard question.
No,
it really is.
So again, I have to take my practical brain and I have to take a look at things. And I laugh because I put a sage spray together a couple of years ago. It's got Bigfoot going into an outhouse, but it's got the UFO in the background picking up, the cow. And how many cow mutilation sightings do you have compared to UFOs? But that goes towards the folks that I saw Bigfoot in the woods and I saw an orb. Well, you've got squirrels, you've got raccoons, you've got other stuff going. How come it has to be a Bigfoot because you saw an orb? And is it an orb you saw? Is it a UFO you saw? Because are you running, and again, I'd go back to my phone here and I have multiple apps. My first screen is I want to call it my debunk screen, because it's got Flight Radar on there. It's got my my bird knot and my bird weather, so all my birding stuff on for all my audio stuff. But like the whole flap they had last year in Jersey or something like that. Oh my God, we're UFOs every 5 minutes, and this is going on, and it's going over
going up and down the coast. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, people that are filming, you lived in the same area for years. Yeah, they may have one or two drones that went through, and then everybody's noticing you're on the flight path.
Exactly.
Two of the largest, airports three actually, in the world,
and we're not talking a big area.
No, but we got this going on. But Stan, the man has so much research, and it's documented research on, hey, this happened here. I mean, he had his own police radio where the state police in Pennsylvania were calling him. Paul Bartholomew's got a whole stack of stuff in the Whitehall area. There was the Bigfoot flap, in '76 in Whitehall, the whole A-Bear incident. But at the same time, you have a whole bunch of stuff going down in the Hudson Valley. So I am not a big person to get in the UFOs. I mean, Bigfoot was kind of it started, for me is I was picking on a buddy at work and then found out there's a sighting down the street from me, and then got pulled into the Chautauqua Lake thing and introduced to Steve and Ryan Reading. And Ryan's got a great map for folks in this area that goes back to the 1800s. And that's, again, it's another, folks have been documenting some of this stuff, but you got to put things down and see what you're there. But again, you also have folks that are going out there and, I'm going to look outside for a UFO or orbs or something like that, and they're filming each other with the same camera, and they're picking up their LiDAR sensors because they don't know what sensors on the camera. I don't know if it's not gonna do it on here, but I know there's a lot of times when this phone is up and I got night vision going, I'm picking up the facial rec, laser on there.
Well, that's a big thing. That's something that it drives me a little crazy because of the fact that everybody is using the cell phones and to me, that's 90. Everybody says, "Oh, the cell phones are great." To me, not so good because of the fact that most people, if you know how to work them and you know how to dissect the evidence that comes across your desk,
right?
Well, that's a whole different story. But most people don't understand that at all, and that's a shame. And there's especially in this day and age. But of course, people don't want to go and take the time to understand their work.
You got to get back out there, and you got to measure. You physically got to do things. And I thought I had my notebook in this. This is my chest rig when I'm out, and it kind of folds open, but it has my my small thermal camera, which goes to the phone, and my stakes and all that. But it's documenting what you've got, and you're making a point.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest problem that I do have with so many of the sightings that people get a hold of me. It's, first of all, it's conjecture. Second of all, if it's a photo, I guess I'm a photo snob because I basically don't like anything to do with cell phones. If outside of like taking a selfie of myself at the gym, that's about the only thing that I use a cell phone for.
Right.
But people don't realize that it's so important to get a decent camera, to have something, and not really just decent, understand how it works, and have it close by. Because if you do see something, you can grab it and you can actually take a photo of it in at least some kind of manner that is proper for that phone or for that camera, and you're able to go and see it. Too many people see things and they matrix it, and it's the same thing in the woods. And as well as I do, you're in the woods all by yourself. All of a sudden, it gets quiet. You know that there's probably a predator someplace coming up near you because everything is quiet. The squirrels stop chattering and the chipmunks disappear and the birds stop chirping. Something is there. But too many people will sit there and start looking up and they'll see, trees. And we all know that chlorophyll in the trees, you got different color leaves. It could be on the same tree. And now they're starting to go and they're starting to matrix this stuff. And they're seeing a creature that's moving because first thing our eyes look for, right? Movement rather than color. And they're seeing this, and now they're all of a sudden now they're panicking, and boom, it's there. And this is what I think I have a problem with some of the people that go out. The other bone of contention, Mike, and I'll just let you in on this one. The guys that go out with the 30-odd sixes, and they're out. And I understand, you're going to some of these places, you got bear and you got stuff that can be nasty, but it's like, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to actually shoot this creature?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
It's you're going out there. Yeah, you want to keep an eye on yourself. Carry some spray or some bear spray or something like that. I mean, I got out of the car one day and was actually down at Joseph's location because I was scouting out the best place to put his family to kind of hike them into the, because they wanted to know where he had a sighting. Yeah. And I get out of the car, and as you say, camera. I always carry my DSLR on a chest rig.
Right.
And it's got like a little bayonet mount, so I can spin it, pop it up, and come out. But I'm going down there today, and I'm like, oh, did I have bear spray? Yeah, there's probably bears. I know I got a bear spray in the car. I get out of the car, and there's none. And I'm walking around the car, and all of a sudden I'm like, again, it goes quiet. I turn around, and I see this thing start lopping across the thing, and I'm like, oh. And I'm like, and it's taking me a minute. Like, that's a dog. No, that's a bear. And then realize to come up with that camera that I practice with all the time, just like I would with a pistol. And I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 shots with it,
right.
With that Lumix, because again, my buddy Matt Larson, give him a shout out because Matt's like you, he comes back from the TV and fine photography stuff, Central Kentucky Bigfoot. And I'm going to spin right into Matt on this because he carries that Lumix bridge camera, which is a video and a still. Right. So he can get that video and that still, but he carries everything on it. If you're a fan of Where's My Sage, you'll know that if I say this word, we have to take a drink. This is orange, not beer. Like gimbal, and carrying a gimbal so you have a steady shot, and carrying your camera on a gimbal to make sure you have that, or you got one of the GoPros that's got a stabilizer lens in there or something like that. But Matt and I talked for years about using different color filters when you're out there. When you say, hey, I'm seeing things in multiple colors, I mean, how many different colors of brown or green or something? And
Yep.
that's a whole nother show. I think you and I have talked, you know,
Yes,
if you got
exactly.
if you got a visual impairment, you may see each of these colors different. So like, I don't even ask people colors anymore. I just hand them a stack of paint samples or a Pantone chart and say, show me the color you saw. But now there's folks with their I think it's, you know, fungi or something like that. That's a colored lens for folks that are using to look for mushrooms. But again, you know, the hunters that use the amber or use the reds or, you know, those rose colored glasses, because you're going to see things different in the woods. But if you're not preparing or thinking about that ahead of time, you may miss some of those things. I mean, you know, the greens I have back here, but for those folks that have traveled to Disney, think about how much of the infrastructure you've seen at Disney. You don't. You see the rides because they paint all their infrastructure in what they call Disney green, which our eye kind of discounts. We do see it, but we kind of push it off to the background.
Exactly.
And those are the things. That's the thing about searching for cryptids, searching for Bigfoot. You become a jack of all trades. If you really want to look for this, I don't care if you're looking for Mothman or the Loch Ness Monster or something like that, you have to learn your environment. You know, that's this area of New York that we live in. If you go from Champ, we go to Seneca Lake. We just move right along this parallel. You know, if we run along this parallel, we end up in, you know, pretty much in Scotland. And, you know, happy St. Paddy's Day as we're going to hit Ireland on the way through. But those freshwater creatures and stuff like that, do you know if there's sturgeon, if you know there's large turtles? Again, going back to a kid taught himself eDNA, are we learning what's in there? You know, as a recovery diver for years and an underwater robot operator, I've seen some big fish. I've seen some crazy stuff underwater, you know, and as a drone operator, same thing. Do you know how to use your equipment? Do you know how to look at that thermal camera?
Exactly. And people, I think that's the biggest thing the biggest problem I have with a lot of the different investigators from the different modalities and the different topics that I talk to is that they don't understand how to use their equipment properly. And that's I think that's the number one problem, I think, with most investigators at this time. And you've got to be able to go take the time and learn it. Even if you just learn one piece of equipment for every couple months, it has to be second nature. You know yourself. I mean, boots in the ground. If you're anybody that's ex-military will tell you have to go and field strip your weapon with a blindfold on. Make sure that you're able to go. Make sure that you're able to load. Make sure everything is perfect. You got to know where every bit of gear is, where you can grab it and just in any situation. And people don't get that because I think too many people, this is a lark to them. And there's nothing wrong with it. But if you want to go and you want to be serious about it, and if you want to go on an expedition, you should be prepared.
Well, yeah, you need to tell where people are. You need to make sure that you have redundancy. You know, I think in this bag, I've got 3 different, just in the pouch alone, there's multiple flashlights, backup knives, glow sticks, you know, door stoppers if we're doing paranormal stuff so I don't get stuck in somebody's basement. But
I don't even have one of those. That's a good idea, Mike. Thank you.
But yeah, I mean the glow sticks. Yeah, I've got them out in the woods, but I carry 2 different colored glow sticks so I know where the stairs are, so I don't trip and fall down the stairs or in a hole. Or if the flashlight breaks or doesn't, I can crack this and at least I can get somewhere, or I can throw it. You know, like, is there a hole there? But again, how many times I've gone on paranormal investigations and somebody pulls out a spirit box and they're like, I heard this and I heard that. And then you're you know, that instead of having everybody write down what they heard, everybody's screaming it. And you can really influence some witnesses. If you're going to talk to a witness, you know, just let them explain their story. Then go back and ask the questions.
We've got Robert Brad Bradley in the house today, and Brad is one of those guys that he belongs to a group that they go and they collect data. They're very, very scientific, and I love what they do. And when you brought up about when you brought up about how can I even say it without laughing? The spirit box. He hates the spirit box. So I'm going to have him on the show. We're going to kind of tear it apart a little bit. But it's like everybody makes it. How many times on any show, will you go and hear garble? They go and they put a teletype underneath a little text, and then the next time they play it, you can hear that.
Yeah,
it's everything is the same. And and I've heard like where people have said, well, this is a grunt that we heard in the woods, and it's nothing like anything I've heard. And I'm thinking to myself, where I live, I have deer, I have bucks in the back that are grunting, making the same sound. But it has a little bit of a different resonance, but people are jumping to conclusions, and that's, I think, the biggest problem that we're running with, because of the fact too many people. Here's okay, Mike. This I'm going to pontificate. Too many people want to believe. Plain and simple.
Too many people want to be on TV. That's the other problem. So,
yeah.
I spent, Christy's busted my chops about having all the gear, because sometimes I don't send her as much gear. I just leave her in the woods as bait. If we do some private investigation and stuff, and the first thing I hear is, am I going to be on your podcast, or are you going to help me get on TV? I turn around and go the other way.
I get that a lot. I do get that a lot.
Yes, I come on and do these interviews because I'm trying to show families and kids that you can really make this a great family friends thing. I mean, this helped. I lost, almost 90 pounds in the last year. And part of it was thanks to, I got to give Seth Breedlove at Small Town the credit, because we filmed during COVID. And he, goes on to say, there's nothing like a global pandemic to be the worst shape of your life. And then he pans, and it's my backside, and I'm climbing Hadley Mountain in the Adirondacks, and I've got 2 kidney stones and 3 hernias. And I was in the worst shape of my life. I was almost 300 pounds. And seeing that on a big screen, and I'm like, and I went just to kind of bring them some extra cameras. I didn't really plan on being part of the docs, but I was out with some friends, and they were going hiking, and I was going hiking,
Yep.
But that probably saved my life. So like I said, to teach kids about the outdoors, first aid, camping, it's a nature, it's such a big thing with this. And again, we go out, you and I sit and talk at different events. It's there. Like I said, I'm not there to be in front of TV. I'm here to kind of help get a kid interested in some sort of science or something.
And that's and that's what the bottom line is. And you know what? I'm lucky, because I've had a lot of people that have influenced me over the years that brought me into it. Go ahead.
Christy said we climbed down and climbed back up to their show, and I think we interviewed you that night that I was in the Adirondacks.
I think so.
I think so. I think I climbed off the mountain, came down, did everything. Yeah, that was a long weekend. I ended up food poisoning that weekend. Yeah, I think Seth tried to kill me that weekend.
Oh my God!
So go watch the journey. You got to. Like I said, I if there's a bunch of guys and girls that I get out with that I know are not bullshitting people, I got to say yes. In part of my language, it's the SDM crew, especially Alexander. He and I have spent up and down the northeast throughout Florida. We've been chewed up by I don't know how many different things. We tried to find the herpes monkeys in Florida. They're the rhesus down at the Silver Springs, and but the guy and I have been up and down in the East Coast doing stuff.
That's excellent. Now, Mike, we're already out of time. Do you realize that?
I am sorry.
No, it's great, because I mean, I learned so much, and that's why I like talking to you, because I get inspired to be able to do stuff again and to do it right. And I think that's what's great. How can people get a hold of you? I mean, it's really important that, I really think that people need to go and reach out to someone like you who has the proper skill set and who has the right intention and who actually does have experience and the network in order to go and answer questions. So how can people get hold of you?
Well, I appreciate that. Tactical Bigfoot Research on Facebook and Instagram. And Where's My Sage on Facebook and Instagram. Occasionally we get over to X. But pardon me. Every other Tuesday night, of course, all my friends decide at the same time that we're going to all relaunch our podcasts. Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. So
that's the way it works.
We're every other Tuesday, but please, watch Tim's show, then catch us on the replay, or see us and catch him on the replay. But yeah, Instagram, Facebook. I spend most of my time over on the IG. Just there's a really good group of folks over there. And then, like I said, Where's My Sage with my wonderful co-host Christy London, the Blue-Eyed Empath. So if Christy's doing a show local, I'll generally go out. Or there's some, like I said, you mentioned there's a couple events. I'm doing one down in Titusville, Pennsylvania in May. I'll be up in Whitehall, and I think there's another one in Pennsylvania. There's a couple of Pennsylvania events I'll be doing, and I'll be traveling with Christy out to a couple other events coming up soon. So
awesome, Mike. Stay on the line. I want to thank you properly off the air. And Mike, the problem when we start talking, it goes way too fast. It goes way too fast because I appreciate it and I respect your knowledge and your experiences. And I think it's great. And for you to, and I was so thrilled that you're like, oh no, we don't have a show that night. I'll jump on. I said, okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah. If I'm available, grab me, because if I can help folks look at the data that's out there, to kind of get away from some of the BS that's out there, because unfortunately there's way too much of that right now. Just be yourself, folks. Everybody's background has something to lead to this, be it an artist, a hairdresser, the guy at 3 o'clock in the morning delivering the newspaper. Somebody has an experience that can help you look at this topic.
Exactly. Mike, we'll be right back. We'll be right back with you. And I got to tell you, I absolutely love hanging out with Mike. When I get a chance to be with him face to face, it's amazing. And you don't get a chance. And here's the thing. He's one of those people that you don't get a chance to go and really, really pick his brain, because there's always 1,000 other things going on and people coming up and people wanting his attention or whatever. So when you go check out his Facebook, get a hold of him if you have questions. Really, he has got he's such a wealth of knowledge. He's probably, to be honest with you, I mean, I only know just a few people that possess that level of knowledge. So guys, take care. We'll see you next week. You've been listening to Tim Shaw, and we're What Else? The Black Cat Lounge here. Para-X, trying to think, Paraflix, my brain shut off, and of course, we're hanging out next to the dumpster where all the cool people go. Ciao, babies. Take care. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.